Republican leadership went to the White House trying to get the president on board with their agenda, but they can't even get their own members in their own party to listen to them. Last night, GOP leaders were caught off guard when what should have been an easy vote to extend the Patriot Act failed. It was full of fail because they couldn't keep their members in line. 26 Republicans voted against the bill. 8 of them were freshmen. And here's what I say to that. Good for them. And good for the Tea Party, the people who actually, in this case, voted on principle. And I agree with them. The Patriot Act should not have been renewed. It is a real problem in regards to privacy. And don't get me started on those national security letters. And they were right on principle on the procedural grounds. We'll explain that in a second. Now, of course, the GOP establishment hated that. And the divisions aren't just in the House. Republican Senator Rand Paul ripped GOP leadership today with the following statement. Last night, there was little debate, no committee hearings held, no amendments allowed, and no examination of whether our government had lived up to its responsibility to protect the liberty of the people. I commend the House for rejecting the renewal of the Patriot Act on these grounds. It is likely that even with this temporary victory, the House will pass these extensions and send the Patriot Act renewal to the Senate. And when they do, I will oppose it. Are you ready for this? Way to go, Rand Paul. Totally agree. If they offered no amendments and they said they wouldn't do that before in the House, and now all of a sudden they've changed their mind, way to be principled and stick to your grounds on that. And again, I agree on the liberty part as well. Now, House Democrats, of course, love this, and they jumped at the chance to take a few digs at the new GOP leaders.
I think our Republican colleagues are struggling with the burden of leadership, and clearly they have not found their footing going forward.
Governing and leading is a lot more difficult than it is to just throw bombs and campaign. Who's on first? I think that's the question that has to be asked of Republicans right now. Who's on first?
I gotta be honest, they can hardly keep their smiles from beaming out. They're like, he just lost. That's awesome. And look, they stuck together and they got the Tea Party help and they wound up winning. Now, John Boehner, of course, is on the defense and he's just what is he gonna do? Of course, he's gonna blame it on the Democrats.
Well, listen, we've been in a majority 4 weeks. We're not gonna be perfect every day. And if the Democrats who voted for these same provisions last year would have voted for them this year, it would have passed.
Boo-hoo, if the Democrats had voted my way, then I would have won. Yeah. What, really, you're complaining about one party being united in opposition against the other party. Where have I seen that before? Oh, right, the Republicans with 0 votes for the Democrat, right? Just happened over the last 2 years, yeah. I don't think the guy understands the concept of irony. Anyway, then Boehner, of course, changed tracks, and he tried to pretend that he's, in fact, a Tea Partier.
Is John Boehner a member of the Tea Party?
I should be.
Are you?
I don't know if I'd actually pay dues, but I'm a big believer in the Tea Party. I talk to Tea Party activists all over my district and all over the country every day.
Yeah, you talk to them when they're yelling at you and defeating your bills. And over in the Senate, Utah's Orrin Hatch is afraid of getting primaried by the Tea Party, like his former colleague from Utah, Senator Bob Bennett. So he invited himself to a Tea Party hall last night, and he joined superstars like Rand Paul and Michelle Bachmann, and Hatch sounded ready to play in the Tea Party big leagues.
I've been watching what the Tea Party does. I've been very impressed. I think it's time for America to take back America. It's the most terrible health care bill. It's a doggone monstrosity. We need to have a fiscal conservative majority that will vote for this country every time. And that's what the Tea Party's going to do. I was the one who raised the issue about the job-killing employer mandate and, of course, the unconstitutional employee mandate. I've been all over the world for our country. Everywhere we go, people have always been amazed by America. And yet we're in danger of losing the greatest country in the world. So we got to fight back.
Here's what I'm amazed by. Orrin Hatch. You're going to tell me your Tea Party? There's no one who's more Republican establishment than Orrin Hatch, who's been there for approximately 800 years. And by the way, I love how he's like trying to get riled up and be Tea Party, like he's angry. He's like, oh, it is a doggone monstrosity. Golly gee willikers, I'm really opposed to those guys. By the way, did you hear him putting dirt on the mandates? Oh, I can't have a mandate. I'm totally against that. Did you know that Hatch co-sponsored the 1993 bill that had an individual mandate? I think kind of hypocrisy. It's unbelievable, man. It makes me so doggone mad. All right, now let me turn to David Weigel, MSNBC contributor and political reporter for Slate. All right, Dave, I want to start with this. First of all, what was the vote about last night? Was it that these Tea Party guys and the right-wing Republicans saying, hey, we don't like the Patriot Act? Or was it because they said, hey, wait a minute, we promised the American people that we weren't going to do this shenanigans of not allowing amendments, not allowing debate, et cetera? Do you know which of those two or both that caused them to vote against Boehner and the Republican leadership?
Well, it was actually a combination of the two. And before the vote, not every member was really clued into exactly what they were voting on. They weren't ignorant. They just didn't, everyone figured this would pass. Reporters didn't think there was any controversy here. I remember in Eric Cantor's briefing beforehand, people were referring to the bill that was going to pass that day. So it seemed like a fait accompli, and most of the concerns from the members I've been talking to today who voted against it were actually about substance. Rand Paul brought up the deeper meaning of passing bills this way, but the freshman members who voted against this, the 8 guys we're talking about, said, look, there's provisions here that I promised I was opposed to, and I'm still opposed to them, and I am going to vote against it every time it comes up. They joined about a dozen and a half Republicans who aren't libertarian on everything, but have been voting this way for a couple of years.
Hey, isn't this a lovely development when people actually vote based on principle? I mean, whether you agree with the principle or not, I'm kind of shocked by it. I was like, what? They voted on principle? We're not missing anything, right? I mean, it seems to be real principle here.
Well, it is. Don't get too excited. The reason this failed is because they tried to pass it as a closed rule, which meant they needed 2/3 of the Congress to support it. So they need every Republican. They need a chunk of Democrats. That's why you heard John Boehner maybe not completely convincingly blaming the Democrats for this not succeeding. They can usually lose a block of a bunch of libertarian Republicans, and they did. Ron Paul, who I'm sure Rand Paul has talked strategy with once or twice, is usually on the end of these votes when Republicans have the majority right now, on the end of votes that pass overwhelmingly. So there's a larger block of guys who are going to do that now, and they're going to draw attention. They've succeeded in making this a slightly more open process, but actually they're going to vote again on a closed rule tomorrow, and then they're going to vote on the whole bill Monday, and it's extremely unlikely anything's actually going to change this time.
All right, look, I'll take my victories where I can get them, okay? Sure. So, hey, this was surprising. It was great. I love that we got different parties, both Republicans and Democrats, voting on principle. But look, and I love Boehner blaming the Democrats. He's like, how could the opposing party oppose me? There's some great irony in that. But, Dave, what I'm most interested in is real bipartisanship. It looks like there might be some issues where the Tea Party people and the Democrats, the left and the right, the real left and right, genuinely agree on certain issues. Isn't that a wonderful development?
Yeah, they can at least agree on transparency. Again, I don't think there's a majority to make a lot of these things happen. But, Russ Feingold lost re-election in 2010, and there are people who are very worried, in the civil liberties community especially, that there's really nobody who's going to pick that banner up from now on. He was out front on everything like this. Rand Paul has come out and, like people were hoping, said he's going to try and slow this down in the Senate, or at least open the process up so this is not ran through like it was, frankly, when Democrats were in charge. When Democrats were in charge of everything, there was a bipartisan process of just getting the Patriot Act rubber stamped every couple of years, or all the provisions rubber stamped. So yeah, there's actually some bipartisanship here possible, and anything that irritates the leadership of both parties, I generally, I'm not a nihilist, but I find that kind of exciting.
Yeah, no, I find it exciting too, because I think the establishment, mainly does. When you hear, bipartisanship, normally it means they've agreed to give whatever the lobbyists want to the lobbyists. Both parties have agreed to it. Here, when it's on principle, look, it's encouraging. Like I said, I'll take my wins wherever I can. David Weigel, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you.